the next wave area is down here around 91.4, and that's where I'd be looking for a bunch of volatility between there and 88 to get a pretty hard bounce. And I wouldn't be surprised if that bounce like launched us all the way back up to like a trend here. Like I would not be surprised if the price came and revisited somewhere around these areas, liquidated a bunch of shorts, and then maybe we bounce around for a bit.
Where's this banana zone, Tom? You can full screen this if you want, but where's this banana zone?
It's so interesting. It's one of those things where whenever I hear everyone's talking about it, then it's done. Like the thing can't happen while everyone's watching. Um, it's really quite fascinating. It's like people will look at the previous cycles and they'll say, okay, this is what happened then. But what also happened then is that you weren't looking at this then. A bunch of people weren't looking at it. Raul Powell didn't publish it in his thing. People weren't wearing Banana Zone T-shirts and setting up a bunch of trades and be like sitting around going, "Hey guys, yeah, we're really gonna get everybody else." No, we're all here. We're all waiting. This is like my favorite Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban. Harry Potter is waiting on the banks of a lake, and he's watching himself on the other side, and he remembers he gets saved by a Patronus charm, and he's sitting there going, "That's my father's Patronus." And my father's going to come and save and save me, and then he realizes no, he has to do it, and he expecto patronum. And I thought, is he mentally unwell? Your father's dead, Harry. Obviously, you're the one who had to have done this. You're the one there. You're the one who's doing it. And so, if we're the ones who have to buy, then we have to be in a situation where we don't have it and we're chasing the price. So people who are sitting there with their large leverage positions, they I'm pretty set for this banana zone, buddy. You're the guy who's supposed to drive the price up, so you're not ready yet. So I expect I'm waiting for the you know I'd want to see a major capitulation first happen, and then we can clear a bunch of that stuff and move up. Either that or disaster occurs. Some people might be like, "Oh, I wouldn't want a disaster." Really, if you could go back and do COVID again, knowing everything you knew now, 9.5 people out of 10 would be like, "I'm going to go back and do COVID again."
Traders, yeah, for sure. Will Bitcoin become a reserve asset for the federal government when that cause a banana zone?
Peter, I never thought it would be. Not any time in our lifetimes or anything like that. I guess I didn't really understand the power of the fourth turning, really, because we're in a situation where they tried BRICS, right? They tried to replace currency. That didn't go so well. Turns out when you have Russia and China inside of your team, people, it's sort of like teaming up with Malfoy and Snape. You sort of like, where is this going to go?
Did you watch Harry Potter recently?
Yes, Christmas. I watched all of them every year. But it plays so well. I find that my District 1 comments, which I use all the time, might be a little too heavy-handed for some people. So sometimes some Harry Potter, some Lord of the Rings are going to come into play. Peter, I'm all about literature. Right. For young adults. If it's for young adults, I'm all for literature.
All right, so Malfoy and Snape, they combine?
Exactly. People aren't so keen to be like, you know what, let's get off this US dollar I've been using my entire life and jump onto the ruble, the yen. Not expecting that. So that didn't really take off so well. Wars don't help, apparently. So, but we do need the. I talked about this with Mike on a Traders Poll. So definitely go take a look at that video if you're interested. But the long and short of it is that Triffin's dilemma makes it so that any country that has the world reserve currency eventually will be in a situation where they're faced with one of two outcomes. One is the complete dissolution of the social fabric of their own country, which then eventually leads to the end of the reserve currency as they're not able to maintain it, and do what's necessary to supply the capital markets in order to maintain it. Or two, they decide enough with this. We need to focus on domestic policies, and then that causes massive deflation externally, and people go, well, you're not supplying what we need, and so you end the world reserve currency. Does that make sense when I say it that way? Do you understand those two things? So the
To be
world,
honest with you, I was thinking about something else, but I do remember it from Traders Post. I do remember the two doom scenarios that you.
well, I've been trying to describe a way because it seems like no matter how many times I've talked to people about it, they don't necessarily know what I mean. The idea is that you have you made a rule and everyone is allowed to have credit cards, right? So you're issuing the credit cards. That's a bad analogy.
Just do the dollar. Just explain the dollar again.
So the United States has the world reserve currency. What that means is that all the debts can be denominated in US dollars. If Canada and Australia wants to make a deal together, they can make a deal denominated it in US dollars. That way, they don't have to constantly convert between Canadian, Australian dollars, and then when they deal with China, convert with yen, and then deal with another country, convert all the time. They can just have one currency and then trade between there. Makes it much easier to deal with, much less expensive, theoretically. So it's a medium of exchange in that way.
But it creates a demand for dollars.
It creates a demand for dollars, which is great for one sense, for the issuer of those dollars, because the world reserve currency can only technically be issued by the United States, and so they get to make gold. So like, okay, everyone's trading gold, but we get to make gold. So wonderful. So you become a empire world superpower because you could write a check that could never bounce. Doesn't matter. Remember when we were younger and millions was a lot of money, and then billions was a lot of money, and then trillions now are a lot of money? And now they're like, oh, what if Mr. Beast is going to be the first trillionaire? Yeah, that's because the United States is printing. No one's talking about the trillionaires in Australia, okay? No one's talking about trillionaires in Canada. They're printing their world reserve currency. But obviously, you have an unlimited credit card. That only works if everyone is like, okay, we agree that we're going to allow you to have this power because it's just so useful for us to have this currency. If you start going all crazy with this power, not going to be so keen. Not going to be so keen. And so, two ways they go crazy is one, the rest of the world needs dollars so much that they'll do anything to sell into the US market in order for you to exchange their goods for your dollars. So they're like, okay, give me the US dollars you have. Here's this t-shirt made in China. And so they'll do whatever they can in order to solicit the business in another country. So people will be like, oh, these billionaires want to move their manufacturing base to another country just to save a nickel. No, Bernie Sanders, that's not what it is. Okay, they're perfectly happy to do it locally if the regulatory environment made sense and made sense monetarily. The reason it doesn't make sense is that the foreign countries are willing to offer massive tax breaks and all kinds of different benefits in order to get them there, because that means dollars get spent in their location because of that, and they get to sell those products into the United States, and then more dollars come out. So just this pool of dollars that need to come out of the United States, just constantly needs to come out of the United States and be created through the euro dollar system. But don't worry about that. It needs to come out of the United States, come out of the United States, come out of the United States. But as it does that, manufacturing in the United States and production in the United States goes down. It becomes a service-based industry because you're not making anything.
Right.
So it's like, I'm going to be a Twitch streamer, I'm going to be a YouTuber, I'm going to be a whatever. It's a service-based industry, and the people abroad are like, yeah, keep going, like whatever it takes for you to make more of the dollars to spin out, do whatever you need to do. But then people are like, well, I can't make a living with a new business, I can't do that. And then the politicians, they don't have any constraint over what they need to do because they never have to like worry about the money of it. So they just do whatever. Whoever has money finds a way of lobbying to get more money and more power and more money and more power until you get what we see now. And so you have this hollowing out of the manufacturing base and the social fabric of the nation, which, if you let it keep on going, will then eventually lead to the collapse of that country. Or you get something like Make America Great Again, and they go tariffs on the rest of the world, domestic onshoring, no more trade deficits. We're going to make America healthy. Excuse me. That wasn't the deal. The deal is that we get to eat every part of your carcass slowly until the end of time. until we're done, and we're never going to be done. So sit down, and let's eat. So
So those
that's
are the two dooms. One doom is your country becomes hollow. The other doom is that you then secure yourself, but then lose the reserve status.
yeah, because as you do that, the country's then not issuing dollars out anymore. The dollars are staying locally. So they're like, well, the deal is we get dollars.
But doesn't that mean that the dollars they already have go up in value?
Well, yes, it goes up in value. So that's how the dollar can crash up. It goes up in value because everyone wants it because they need it, not because they want it, because they need it. But
And
they
that's
need
not
it
good.
to then pay down debts. So once they pay the debt, now they don't have the dollars.
Hmm.
So what are they going to do now? Now they're sort of screwed. They have to get dollars for other debts, or they have to find other ways of doing transactions, which they don't have, which is what
Bitcoin.
BRICS is trying to do. Bitcoin.
Enter
So
Bitcoin enters the chat.
that's right. Bitcoin enters the chat, which is happening exactly around the same time as you would expect in the fourth turning, right? The last time this happened, when we went off the pound to the US dollar, happened around a fourth turning. And so now we're in another fourth turning again, and the system is changing. The what's weird here is it seems to be a global fourth turning.
So do you
And
think Bitcoin will become the reserve asset or one of the reserve assets of the United States?
yes, because well, who knows? Did you see the thing with Cardano that the
The
whole
digital
federal
ID?
that the federal budget might be put onto a crypto ledger?
Not only that, they're considering using it for digital ID if I understood that correctly.
I don't see how crypto doesn't solve this thing.
Okay,
Who's
won't that
going
be
to use?
bullish for Bitcoin? Won't the price shoot up?
Yeah, especially for the CIA backed asset. Of course, it will shoot straight up to the moon, and that at the same time could then end up jubileeing a bunch of the debt. So it might be like exactly what's needed.
Is there a way? Do you think? I know we're getting sidetracked here. I don't want to keep you here, but I am curious. Can Bitcoin become so valuable that it saves the United States from their debt,
That's what I just said.
like
Yeah,
30 trillion, like that
yes,
much?
yeah, absolutely.
Did you watch Mark Andreessen on Lex Fridman?
No,
He said, if I remember correctly, that the US has $1 trillion debt, I don't know what it is, every 100 days.
yeah,
And then it's going to become every 90 days and every 80 days, et cetera, et
correct,
cetera.
correct.
So how
As
long
interest
do
rates
they
keeps
have
going,
before this bit? I mean,
no
what do you
time.
got? You got to like full on Bitcoin.
Well, that's where the dollar, the price of the dollar, the XY, will tell you where are we in the fuse lit here. So if you see the dollar skyrocket, like just rip, there we go. Now we're in final days here.
And
Like
then how does
if it does Nvidia the GameStop level stuff, then we know we're almost done.
and wait, when you okay, so when that starts to happen, when you see it, when when all the bees have disappeared, you have how long do we have until the end once we see the DXY rip?
Well, it's done this ripping 3 times so far,
And
and then
then
it pulled back.
they
So it's all if they can squash it. If they can't squash it, how long? Wait, how long before you better have some Bitcoin to make sure that you can deal with this?
or like gold and weapons or
Uh,
something.
no, 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 no. We're not going to need all that. You're not going to need gold and weapons and all that. The information, the war is in our minds now. The war is for our minds, not counting the people who are actually dying in the wars out there. But I'm just saying that this war is a war for like our acquiescence. They want a slavery class who's comfortable with being a slave. I get it. I get it.
I'm good with it.
I understand why they're doing it, right? I'm not against oligarchs. I just want to understand why they're doing what they're doing, so I know do I become a cyborg? Do I work with AI? What is it going to need me to do here? How do I avoid the churn?
I'm looking
Um,
for that Wally life. Okay, I want to be in a chair with VR goggles, hook me up, juice me, and that's all I need.
Wally was a criminal. He should have been executed,
He destroyed
destroyed
paradise.
there. Oh my god. Um, Yeah. So how long? I mean, real quick. I think it's gonna happen real quick because if you take a look at, well, when I say real quick, I think one turning, so 20 years. Do you have 20 years in order to get it? No, 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 no.
Right.
Because
So how does Bitcoin solve this? How does, if Bitcoin becomes a reserve asset, how do they solve this debt crisis?
they start denominating the debts in Bitcoin instead.
And then
They
people are going to be wanting Bitcoin instead of the US dollar. The dollar will no longer. No, you still need a
Yes.
currency.
Well, Bitcoin would be the currency.
Won't Bitcoin be like gold?
Yeah. So yeah, you're talking about like a stable coin. You would have a stable coin that's backed with Bitcoin, and then that stable coin would be issued. I mean, ideally for the people, would be issued through a consensus mechanism with the blockchain. Obviously, that's not going to happen. Obviously, what's going to happen is going to be some centralized agency or some centralized systems or group of international whatevers that are going to do it, and that'll be issued, but it won't be tied to a particular government, and so you won't have Triffin's dilemma as we understand it, because they'll be able to issue an infinite number of them.
All right. Well, this is
So
good. This has been enlightening.
get Bitcoin, get Cardano, and they could be good to go.
Solana. What do you mean? It was just ripping. We were just seeing Solana at all time highs, all time highs, all time
Oh
highs.
my god! And I really regret not having any Luna too. My Safe Moon's doing real well.
Tom, it's a game of musical chairs. You got to get in, get out.
No, Cardano is the most decentralized cryptocurrency on the planet. I didn't
But
do the
why?
research
Why does
myself, but
that
it was
matter?
said by Charles Hoskinson, and I believe him because he is the blockchain. I didn't know if you know that. We'll see. We'll see. And then AIs could come in all here, and we're gonna have robots and productivity. The whole it's golden age. But what you don't want to be is the people with no. You're not using AI or robotics or anything like that in order to generate new productivity or energy or wealth for yourself at all. That's new to you, and you have no crypto at all. Like those people are going to sell this thing. Those people, when they're in the bread lines, suffering on the street, and homelessness is up 40% and all that sort of thing, and we'd be like, "Oh, what happened to you?" Oh, it turns out only the people with crypto or AI or robotics survived. Just like in the industrial revolution. What happened to all the farmers? Most of them terrible. Like most of them gone. So you don't want to be the one of those farmers who are like, I heard about this thing where the big city, I might be able to make it. City's been going on for 100 years, bud. You're kind of screwed here.